And there's Callum, not wearing what I was expecting him to.
Okay, so here we've got a really nice, easy fire starter. Grows all over the place, grows all over the UK. I've talked about it on my channel. This isn't goose grass, this is just some lying dead grass. I'm not exactly 100% sure on what type of grass it is, but I've basically stuffed my entire pocket all the way down with it, because that'll be how I start the fire initially. Okay, so we've turned up, we've selected a campsite using mosh pit, which is what we teach. What we're going to do next is we're going to sort of look at the different styles of bushcraft that me and Grayzy do, different sort of methods to the madness, as you can see. Something that he's deployed with and something that he's used to using. And for me, I'm much more into my primitive and traditional bushcraft. You can see I've got a bedroll that you would have seen during the walk-in. You would have seen that slung around my back. So you've already technically seen two of my items. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you what each of us have brought for our own 5 items. Obviously, Grayzy does know 2 of mine, like I've already just said, but I don't know what he's got. He doesn't really know what the rest of my items are. So we'll move the camera around and you can see that. Okay, so my 5 items, you've already seen 2, obviously. You've seen me carrying the wool blanket in conjunction with using my cordage as sort of a harness method of strapping that to my body. We'll work from over here to over here, and then we'll talk about why I'm carrying it. Generally, the less items I'm taking, the more primitive I'm going, because generally, if you look throughout history, people survived much more arduous experiences than us doing an overnighter. But 5 items. Hatchet. If I have to take one tool, it's going to be a hatchet. I can use this like a knife. I can use this obviously as an axe. I can cross cut wood with it. I can split wood down with it. I can carve with it. I can make bowls. I can make spoons in conjunction with utilizing fire for one of its uses. And yeah, that's why I'm carrying an axe versus just carrying a knife. I will always opt for the small Grant Force Brooks outdoor axe over a knife any day if I can only take one tool. After that, combustion, I just went with my ferro rod. Yes, I know it is sort of strapped with a leather thong, but obviously ferro rod and striker, if we're sort of going to look at it like alone rules, I can drive plenty of sparks with this. Nice 6-inch ferro rod, obviously, and just one of these little weird cheap strikers that for some reason has a ruler on it. After that, we were going to look at cover, but cover's at the bottom, but we will talk about a form of container. So this is going to allow me to purify water, which is number 1. If I can make a fire and I've got this, I can get as much water as I want. I can char material in it, but by spinning it upside down, putting that punk wood or whatever resource that I want to put into here into the fire, it will char that inside the container, just brush the coals away, and then you'll be able to remove that. Obviously as well, I can use this for cooking food. Just because it's not a pot, I can still place any food that I get. If I was to say trap an animal, snare an animal, kill an animal, I can still process that animal down in conjunction with using this axe or a rock or whatever I need. And I can boil the animal inside here to make it safe to eat if I'm a bit wary of it. There's also, obviously, it being spring at the moment, there's plenty of natural food just lying around, which we may get into later if we've got the time. Okay, so after that, we've got my cordage. This is jute twine. I can use this in conjunction with fire if I want to make, if I need to make any fires. Generally, this is exactly the same as what we sell at Northern Limits as the Inferno rope. It's just obviously it's not covered in the paraffin wax and it's not kept in that nice sort of container of masking tape that we normally put it in when we sell it to you. But I can make a fire with that. Obviously, I can build structures with this, and obviously, it's my way of carrying my kit, as I went for a very primitive way of doing it. I just literally just made a sort of blanket roll and just put all my kit in that, rolled it round, and then secured it off at the top and the bottom, which I'll get into when we pack up. I'll show you how I pack all of this together, just in case you want to try this yourself. It's really lightweight kit. I weighed it yesterday. It weighs 5.7 kilo or something, all in all. After that, wool blanket. You might think a sleeping bag. This is my method of doing things. This is not Grayzy's method of doing things, but I love a wool blanket if I'm only taking that one item, because all I've got is this and the clothes on my back. So this is a cover. Because of the size of it being a 5-point Hudson Bay blanket, that's a queen size, I can use it as a ground cloth over a debris bed, and then I've still got that extra to then bring it over me and use it as sort of a blanket, as though sort of a quilt like you'd be sleeping in. Also, it is a piece of clothing. If I really need to, and it's really cold, and I'm traveling around, most of this stuff I'd have to carry the water bottle. This can go in my pocket. This can go in my pocket. This can go in my pocket. As I say, I'd have to carry this, but then I can wrap this around me, and I can use this as sort of a cover layer if I'm on the move. Also, if I get absolutely soaked in water, obviously I can strip my clothes off. I can make that fire, and I can dry my clothes out next to that fire and just have this around me like sort of a towel, as if I just got out the shower, and this will just sort of sustain my core body temperature until that happens. So that's my 5 items. So what we're going to do now is we're going to move on, and you're going to see Grayzy's 5 items.
Thanks very much, Callum. So first of all, my carriage was my Black Hawk grab bag. This is what I've used on deployments before, and I'll always use it if I'm not using my normal Northern Limits resources bag, because this is bigger. So first of all, my cutting tool is, I've featured this before, this is the Stone Circle Workshops all-rounder. This is what Wayne from Stone Circle Workshops made for her. Okay, I used it on the Grizz. It's absolutely perfect. It's a workhorse. It is a fantastic blade. So that is now my primary cutting tool. Next then, my combustion device. I've just got my large ferrocerium rod, which will work in conjunction with the sharp spine that's on my knife. Yeah, my cover. I've got a bivy bag. Because it's it's going to be the high of 15 degrees today. We are in the spring. It's going to go drop down to 10 degrees tonight as well. So I'm happy with just that to work in conjunction with my browse bed that we're going to be building shortly. Okay, next item is my stainless steel water bottle. Again, the exact same explanation as Callum, so I'm not going into that because the fact that I don't want to bore you. But what I can also do with this as well, a trick that I picked up from Dan Warwack from Bushcraft, is the fact that if I do get cold for whatever reason, and it's something I've done in the past, I'll heat this up and I'll throw it in, wrap it up in either my schmag or my spare sock, and I'll throw it in my bivy bag to then heat that up, and then I've got a hot water bottle throughout the night as well. Next item, I've actually brought a second container. I've actually brought my nesting cup. Okay, this will be my clean pot. So when I start filtering water from the collection that I get out of this, it'll then go into, so I can just drink it, and I can save this for later on. And the fact that if I want to brew coffee or whatever, I can put it straight into there, rather than contaminating the water with coffee. Next item then is my first aid kit. As some of you know, I'm a combat medic by trade in the British Army. I will always have some form of first aid regardless of where I go, especially when you're using knives, axes, swords or whatever. Callum, for example, he will keep his in his pocket, and I know James will always carry it on his waist. I'll always carry mine in my bag or my pocket. So get yourself a decent first aid kit.
So what we've got here is 2 dead standing that we've kicked down, and what we're going to do is we're going to take these two, these 2 trees, we're going to split that one down because it's gone off into a Y, and we're going to make a freestanding wiki up shelter with what we've got around us in the environment, because neither of us have a poncho or a tarp or anything like that with us, so we're going to need some sort of an overhead cover. So we're going to stop talking, and we're just going to film ourselves making this, and you'll sort of see the end result. So we'll crack on.
So this has taken roughly around about an hour to get so far. So as you can see, there's still gaps in here. We've managed to build a shelter, build a structure, and then start insulating it with moss on the outside. We're not finished yet, but we just got to do the finishing touches, and just to hurry it up, I'm going to continue doing this, and then Callum's going to go off and start collecting resources for Wallongfire, and then we'll get a brew on, and then we'll go through the shelter once it's finished.
Okay, so when the shelter starts to get to the stage where it's becoming a one-man job, just to do the last finishing touches on it, the next man, if you're working in a 2-man, should then move off, start making a fire. So as you can see here, I've taken a dead standing down with my axe. I've then just used my hands to go and get loads of thumb, pencil lead size, with the main bulk of my initial kindling bundle set in the middle with a load of moss. And obviously to ignite that, you saw on the walk in, I was gathering up grass, and then some birch bark at the tree was freely giving me that really dry, crispy stuff that just hangs off the tree and you can just rub down on into your hand. So, making the fire safe. We're not just going to ignite the fire like this. Obviously, we're surrounded by all this sort of pine and spruce debris. So what we're going to need to do is sort of have a think about how we can actually make this area safe. So Two ways you could do that. You could score the earth all the way around just with the heel of your boot, just dragging it around. Or because we're next to a water source, what we're going to do is we're just going to use rocks, and we're going to place rocks around this. So yeah, just work all the way around it with rocks. Oh, nearly set, mate. I can't even take it.
As it's a nice hot sunny day, and there's loads of light shining through the tree, so there's loads of light glare, so we can only apologise for that because it just makes for crap filmmaking. But that said, we'll have to crack on. But anyway, the shelter's now complete. I've done the last finishing touches while Callum was cracking on with the fire. And what we've done is we've intentionally built it where we are now, purely because there's two divots either side of one. Okay, so what that accommodates us to do is, if for whatever reason there was a massive downpour and this shelter fails to be waterproof, we've actually got two divots either side just to keep it off the floor, and then we'll actually be able to flow in. So essentially what we've done is we've made natural drainage within the shelter, and all it means is that me and Callum will just have to get nice and cosy. However, I'm always big spoon, just saying. So we're happy with this. You know, it's keeping the sun off our heads, and it's actually quite nice and cool. But once we get the fire going, which is, you know, just a footstep away from us, it's going to circulate around here. You know, and then what will then happen is it'll heat the inside up, and then the convection will then start bouncing around it, and that'll keep it warm if we need it to be.
Okay, so you've seen the long fire, and what you've seen, well, you've not seen me do it. Basically, I've just filled a dead standing with this. I've split that into 3 sections. I've laid 1, 2, 3 parallel with each other. I've then piled all my kindling and all my sticks, and just in the middle, what I've done is made my small, really fine kindling bundle now, which I will push my bird's nest into and then ignite it with the ferro rod. But we're going to want to put, with a long fire, you're going to need to put a piece of wood on top of that once it's sort of burnt down, because that's what's going to make it a fire that burns for a long time. It's not called a long fire because it's long, it's called a long fire because it burns for a long time. So this dead standing I've not needed to use my axe for. I have just kicked it over. What you can see here is all this. This has all been in the ground, so I'm not going to want to put that in the fire. It's going to cause too much smoke, and it's just not going to be it's not going to be pleasant to sit around while that dries out. Just like that, just remove that piece. Then I know the length of me and the length that I want this long fire, so I simply just want to come to about here, and then just, as you can see, because it's dead standing, it's really simple. It's pretty much just one chop. If you've got a sharp axe, perfect. Just like that. Be wary of doing what I've just done, just because my axe gone into the ground. If there had been a rock there, it would have damaged my axe face, or it would have damaged the bit of my axe, I should say, and the blade. But yeah, so these two will go on top, and that's what will sustain it a little bit longer. But obviously with these fires, they'll burn for about 5-6 hours. Then you'll need to pre-collect wood. So then once it's burnt down in the middle of the night, you get up for a pee, you put that wood back on the fire and on the coal bed, and then you go back to sleep, and it keeps you warm.
So what we're now doing is, it's coming near the end of the day. We're going to get our fire going, get some food on, set our bed spaces up. Like I say, we are going to be quite in close proximity. I've got my dust bag, my booze bag, sorry. So we'll let you know how we've slept in the morning. Always resheath your blade when you're not using it. And while Callum's ruffling all that up, I'm just going to get the finer flash tinder to get the rest of it going.
What you want to do with this stuff is, once you've cut a little small length off, you don't need to cut the whole thing, obviously. I mean, that's probably just 1 overhand knot's worth. Just grab it and then just rub it into itself, and what that does is it just roughs the fibres up. Just makes it a little bit easier to take a spark from a ferro rod. So I can place that into this bird's nest. I've got my main, as you can see, I've got that really fine kindling bundle, and what that'll do is it'll burn down and into the fire. So I can just... Okay, so what I've got here is Expedition Foods breakfast. I really like the oats and blueberries or blackberries. I think it's a, what does it say on the packet? Porridge with blueberries, it is indeed. And I found this is one of the nicest sort of breakfasts. Really lightweight, obviously it being oats and a dried food. So I'll just give that a stir, let that set. Put it over to one side for a minute, and then I'll come back to it when it's ready. And then I've got an initial meal, and then I've got a steak for a little bit later. Obviously, with the bottle, all I have to do now, get a nice bit of this Taylor's coffee, just dump it straight into that hot water, and that's the end of it. Place the plastic into my pocket, try not to burn plastic.
Food for this evening. It's just skewered some steak. And he's going to get all amongst that. With my bare hands. So that's us eating now, and watered. We've had a brew, hydrated, got some water. We're just going to chill out and enjoy the rest of the evening, just listen to the sounds, just put the world to right and contemplate our life choices. Get our heads down. That's pretty much about it, really.
Anything you change in your kit?
No, I wouldn't change anything in my kit, no. Considering it's just a one night and it's quite warm, I'm quite happy with the fact that I've got 2 containers and I've not brought any cordage out because I've actually not needed any. But apart from that, you work with what you got, you improvise to it. So cordage for me wasn't really an issue. We've not actually used any on the shelter. My knife, I've not really even used my knife, to be honest with you. But again, I always take that with us regardless. But I'm happy. I'm content with my life right now. So we're going to go and plan some more Northern Limits things. What about you? Did you change anything?
I wear gloves just because they're clothing and they don't count as an item.
No, it's clothing. So that's where I've got mine.
Gloves. Yeah, no, bar that I wouldn't have changed anything. Just gloves.
Yeah. I've got my schmag as well. I always wear my schmag around my waist because it's so a versatile bit of kit. I count it as clothing. It's just incredibly multi-use bit of kit. Apart from that, we'll sign off and we'll see you in the morning. Grayzy's morning coffee. Good morning, everybody. I slept actually quite well last night. Put some cushioning underneath my bed. Slept quite well. Callum didn't snore, which was good. It's quite early in the morning, so what we're now going to do is we're going to deconstruct the shelter, put the moss back where it belongs, and then spread the dead fall out a bit, just to leave no trace. Get rid of what's left of the fire, and then spread everything out, and then get rid of coals as well. We've got a water source here, so we're just gonna drown it out, mush it up, and then cover it over. But I've had a really good night overnighter. I've enjoyed myself. What about you, Callum?
Yeah, no, overnighter was good. I barely needed, because my wool blanket's queen size and it's a 5-point Hudson bait, I've not even really needed to do anything as far as sort of to battle the ground conduction. All I had to do, I've put a little bit of padding in there, but not much, and I just built a little pillow. But bar that, the Hudson Bay, as always, has exceeded all expectations from me.
So thanks very much for watching. We're going to now go and do the obligatory walkout. But if you're interested in anything that we'll have here at Northern Limits Bushcraft and Survival, please check out the website www.northernlimitsbushcraftandsurvival.com. If you're interested in any of the products that we make and sell at Northern Limits, check out our Etsy page. Check out www.etsy.com/Northern Limits BCS.